Hello and welcome to today's panel discussion on Nation in Conversation, where we will be talking to some inspirational women in the field of business within agriculture. On our panel today, we've got Jane McPherson. She's the manager of Grain SA's Farmer Development Program. We also have Preline Swart, who is from Swart Boerdery, Marion Chiquinia, who is the MD of Harvest Time, and also Rita Andreas, who is a Drakenstein Mayoral Committee member and also the chairman of the Adama Workers' Trust. Very huge welcome to you today here at Nation in Conversation and at Nampo. It's very great for me to have you all here on the panel today. Before we get started, ladies, can you please tell us exactly what your role within the agricultural field is currently? Jane, we'll start with you.
Grain SA has a farmer development program where we're trying to develop capacitated black commercial farmers, but also help people to use the land that they have available, whether it's 1 hectare or 1,000 hectares, primarily to produce food, but also to become part of the commercial sector.
Preline?
Ek boer en ek is trots om te sê ek is 'n trotse boerin. Ek is ook die visievoorsitter by Graan Suid-Afrika. Ek is ook 'n lid van ons vroue landbou vereniging in die Weskaap.
Marion?
Thank you. So I'm the MD of Harvest Time Investments, which is the Afgri vehicle for development. So there we basically grow new era farmers into commercial farmers to bring into the Afgri value chain. We provide training, mentorship, technical advice, financial services, basically all the support that a new era farmer needs in order to take their business to the next level or enter the market.
En Rita?
Ek is betrokke by die mees suksesvolste aandeelhoudingsskema in Suid-Afrika. Ons boer met wyn en met wingerdstokke. En ons is so 260 aandeelhouers, baie suksesvol. Ja, ek kan met trots vanmiddag sê, is lekker om 'n boer te wees. Ons is weg in hulle het spreekwoord wat sê, 'n vrou is soos 'n teesakkie. Jy gaan nie weet hoe sterk sy is voordat jy nie die water opgooi nie. So ek is nou by sterker, die sterkste kom nog.
En kookwater nog boonop, né? Ladies, it's not easy for me to say this, but there are not a lot of women in leadership positions as yourselves within the agricultural field. Why are we seeing that agriculture is such a struggle for women to get into? Why is it so difficult for women to find themselves in the agricultural sphere? Marion, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Rozanne. I think if you look at, first of all, I think the important question is why do we even need to bring women into the space, right? Afgri as a business, we want to enable food security in Africa. And if we look at the statistics within South Africa, it's just over 50% female, right? And if we want to grow the economy, it doesn't make sense that we only use a majority of half of the population to enable us to grow the economy or even drive food security. So that from that perspective, it's very, very important that we bring women in, particularly to lead in agriculture and so forth. And the second one is that women are naturally reinvestors in their homes and in their children and in their community. So therefore, it's important that we channel a lot of the influence that can come through into agriculture through women, because they grow the family. Why there isn't women, or why agriculture isn't very attractive, I think probably we need to provide women with the necessary support. In addition to the support that we provide to men, I think we need to first of all, we acknowledge that we are equal, but then I think we also need to say equal but different. And that support needs to come in a different form than it does for men. And every stakeholder within the agri-sector needs to sort of revisit and re-evaluate how they provide services within the space and really tailor their support or whatever services they provide to attract women. I think it needs to be tailored. And as soon as it's tailored, we'll attract more and more women.
Preline, ek sien jy knik jou kop die hele tyd, so jy het beslis iets om by te voeg.
Ek dink die vrou was maar altyd net nog daar gewees. Want in elke boerdery is daar 'n vrou. En ek persoonlik voel die vrou is die nek van die besigheid. Maar die vrou is altyd op die agtergrond. En dit moet nie eintlik so wees nie. As jy praat saam met 'n paartjie, dan sal die man altyd sê ek is die boer en die vrou sal altyd sê ek is die boer se vrou. Ek verskil. Jy's net so saam met jou man in daardie besigheid, so neem jou volwaardige plek in en staan op en sê ek is ook 'n boer. Ja, ons almal sien dit nie so nie, maar ons kan nie net verwag dat die landbousektor se manne net moet opskuif vir ons om as vrou in te kom nie. Ons moet hulle maak opskuif, want ons moet ons regmatige plek inneem, want ons was nog altyd net op die agtergrond. So ons moet 'n stappie vorentoe neem en vir hulle sê, hier is ons wil deel wees. Ons wil nie net op die agtergrond wees nie. Dis maar my siening.
Jane?
What we've noticed is the smaller the farmer and the more rural the area, we have more women. As soon as farming becomes more business orientated and more money orientated, then there are more men involved. Farming seems to have got removed from what it was originally. And I think if my understanding is correct, then originally farming was about producing food. People settled down, and instead of chasing animals, they started keeping them. Instead of picking plants, they grew plants. And it was primarily to feed the family. And that's really the role of the woman. And even today, we look after the children, we see to the food and things like that. Okay? Now, as farming has developed, it's moved more and more into the men's world, into the business world. And that's why we see in our developing sector, when we go into the deep rural areas, at least 50% of the farmers that we're dealing with are women. Because it is back to the basics of my family needs food. Whereas when you move up into the bigger sector, it's really not about food. It's just business. And that's where the men take over and we take a step back. So I agree with Praline. I think we need to take up our place. But also, some of us are very privileged and that we haven't been brought up to think that we're inferior. We've believed from when we were little that we are equal to men. But there are a lot of, in fact, I would guess the majority of women in the world feel that they're not equal to men. And those of us that have that feeling are actually very privileged. And we need to remember that there are a lot of people out there who really need support, who really need to be empowered, that they can stand up for themselves and take up their position and not feel inferior. We are blessed.
Yeah. Praline, you mentioned that women need to take their place within the agricultural sphere. Die ding is die geleenthede daar vir vroue om wel dit te doen. Rita, as ek kyk na jou storie, jy het begin as 'n werker en jy het jouself opvoeding gegee and you made sure that you took the opportunities that were given to you so that you could get into a position where now we're talking to you as someone who's a thought leader in terms of women in agriculture. Is die moontlikhede en geleenthede om jou plek in te neem, is dit daar vir alle vroue?
Ek glo so dat dit bietjie lank gevat vir ons vroue om na vore te kom. Want ons doen dit lankal, maar miskien net agter die skerms.
Ja.
En as ons terug gaan, as ons gaan kyk in waar begin dit? Genesis in die Bybel, Esegiel in die Bybel, Esegiel 34 vers 23, wat die Here baie duidelik sê oor grond. En ek glo ons is God se boer met God se mense op God se grond. En ons as vroue, ons gebruik baie die keer die term, ons kan multitask, ons kan 5 dinge gelyk doen. En dit het lank al tyd geword dat ons meer bemagtig moet word. En soos wat ons almal hier sit, is ons bemagtig. Die Here het die eerste vrou bemagtig toe hy verskyn het aan Maria, om te gaan sê vir die mense, jy het vir my gesien. So landbou, glo ek, dis hierdie sektor in Suid-Afrika, wat die belangrikste is, want ons sit kos op ander mense se tafels. Dit maak nie saak waarmee ons boer nie. Ons sit op kos op ander mense se tafels. So ja, en vir my wat van onder af begin het, uit die landerye uit, en die geleenthede aangegryp het, en gesien het, en ek glo altyd, ek kan 'n verskil maak. So glo ek, die platform, die fondasie is gelê vir ons vrouens. Al wat ons moet doen is om op te staan en die geleenthede aan te gryp. En nie te kyk vir iemand anders sê, ek glo, ek kan, ek wil en ek sal. So ja, dit is wat ons suksesvol maak, wanneer jy glo. En jy weet, die belangrikste van alles is, om te boer is nie 'n eenman saak nie. Dit is soos 'n gesamentlike poging wat aangewend moet word. As ons gaan kyk wat maak ons model so suksesvol? Dit is privaat sektor, dis regering, dis jou werk, dis almal wat saam in een projek mee besig is. En dit kan ons net beter gaan, want ons verstaan mekaar, jy vertrou mekaar, en wie is die mense wat jy regtig saam gaan, jou eie mense wat jy jare mee aankom, en dit is waar ek my sukses vandaan kry.
Ja, ek wil net daarbij aansluit. Jy sê, Prelien, dat julle werkers en almal wat saam met wie julle werk, hulle noem dit ons plaas. Dit is amper like an idea of collective ownership. We own this together. We are making this successful together. En dit is wat jy sê, julle so suksesvol maak. Kan jy dit net uitbrei daarop asseblief?
As ons werkers verwys na iets op die plaas, sal hulle altyd praat van, dis ons sinne. Hoekom? Omdat van dag 1 af word hulle heeltemal in die boerdery ingesluit, laat hulle kan eienaarskap neem van die besittings wat daar is, sodat aan die einde van die dag hulle kan voel, ons gaan nie alleen vorentoe nie, hulle gaan saam met ons. Wat ons doen, ons gee vir hulle skape of kalwers en dan maak ons dit saam met hulle groot. So aan die einde van die dag voel hulle, maar ek het ook iets. En wanneer ek die skape oppas, is dit myne is ook daarbey. En as ek net vir jou kan terugvat na jou vraag vir Evans, waar jy vra, is daar regtig plek vir ons vroue? As ek kyk na Graan Suid-Afrika, ja, ek is een vrou onder 'n klomp mans daarso. En vir my, om dames in te gestap het, en vir hulle om plek te moes gemaak het vir 'n vrou, kon seker nie maklik gewees het nie, maar hulle het dit at least begin doen. So nou is daar een vrou saam met hulle op die board, en ek voel net om te begin met iets, en vir jou as vrou om in te koop by dit wat hulle wou gedoen het, en jy werk saam met hulle, maak jy die weg oop vir ander vroue. Dit is nie altyd maklik om die enigste vrou te wees nie, want man sien vir ons as emosionele mense. Hulle dink as jy 'n traan in jou oog het of 'n blink oog het, dan die vrou gaan nou begin huil en die vrou gaan nou dinge anders sien. Ja, Jane, ons is baie daar, is ons onder trane, want ons is passievol oor dit wat ons doen. Die mans verstaan nie altyd die trane nie. Mans verstaan nie altyd vir ons nie, maar ek sê altyd, vir my was dit belangrik om nie net Ralph se vrou te wees nie. Vir my was dit belangrik om 'n regmatige plek in die landbousektor in te kry. Hoekom? Om die weg te baan vir ander vroue, om dit vir ander vroue makliker te maak. Maar nou moet ek selfsugtig wees, omdat ek al reeds in die sektor in is, om te vergeet van die vroue wat agter is. Nee, ek moet die weg baan vir hulle. Ek sien myself as 'n baanbreker. Daarom staan hier met trots vandag, I'm a strong woman en ek is een.
Yeah. Is there a shift towards making sure that women are empowered in the industry? Or is it just like, oh, we've got one woman on the board now, so it's fine. The window dressing is there, so we don't really need to explore this any further. We've got one crier, we don't need any more. Jane?
No, I certainly won't cry. I don't know that there's a drive to do that. I really don't think so. We work entirely in the development sector, and there we are finding that there are a lot of women. But as the farmer gets bigger, you get fewer and fewer women until in the commercial sector, there are virtually none at all, which is very sad. But I've never felt that we need to make an issue of it. Again, it's because one is privileged not to feel that you're inferior. But even in my own experience in agriculture, quite often, if you want something done, I've got to say to the men that I work with, oh, guys, please won't you go and say this, because if I say it, I'm a woman. So there is definitely a bit of stigma attached to being a woman. But on the other hand, it's not an enormous issue. Let's just get on with it. And I think if we push as well and take up our position, I don't think people will actively stand in your way. But men aren't going to make way for you simply because you're a woman. And I don't think we want that either. No. We don't want to feel we're there because they're tolerating us.
Exactly.
We want to feel there because we're there because we can make a contribution, because intellectually we can cope with what they're dealing with. And that we also have a softness about us and a care and a compassion, which I think is why in many ways, a lot of us who work in development are women, because you have an empathy for the plight of somebody that doesn't have food. Most of us here have never not had food. We don't know what it's like to actually be hungry and to not be able to feed your children. You send them to bed as if you're angry because there isn't food in the house. And that sort of empathy that we can have and the understanding and the energy to help them is, I think, what makes us better at doing development work perhaps than a lot of the men, because you need to have a heart. And although sometimes we do shed a tear, it's not always bad. It's not always bad to actually feel for somebody else.
Yeah. Marion, your focus is on sustainability and development, so could you please also kind of explain to us where you stand?
So I think, Rozanne, we do need more and more commercial female farmers, but in our program particularly, we've seen a lot of success. And I think one of the things that we don't do well, Jane, is that we don't showcase that successes very well. And that's also a tool that could be used to attract more and more women when they see more and more women succeed in agriculture. But I think what's also very important is to highlight that primary production is not the only area that women can have an influence in agriculture. You know, people who sit in the agri-services businesses that service the very primary producer can make the right decisions in order to support women more. Right? In policy making, in government, if women are more influential in that, then you know, we're able to push more for policy that enables more and more change in agriculture, particularly things like putting quotas in, saying, well, you know, input producers, you need to be, you know, sending some of your business to over and above the BBBE legislation, and specifically in agriculture. So if we have people who are women in policy-making positions, then we are also making an influence. So I think that's also one of the things that we need to highlight, that primary production is not the only way to change the face of agriculture.
Yeah. Jane, you were speaking earlier about equality, that to feel that you are equal is actually not everyone's primary thought. A lot of women, or especially within Africa, have been conditioned to feel like they are minder as wat die mans is, like you're not on the same level. And we see this now happening overseas with the Me Too movement, where people are demanding equal pay, they're demanding equal treatment. How far away are we from getting to that point here in South Africa in the agricultural field, or is that something that is just a pipe dream because we're just actually still trying to get in the door? Rita, kan jy vir ons oopmaak?
Ja, ek dink as ek nou spesifiek moet praat daar waar ek vandaan kom, is ons baie presies op gelykheid.
Ja.
Vrou, 'n man word nie meer voorgetrek omdat hy 'n man is nie. As 'n vrou doen wat sy moet doen of wat 'n man doen, is dit net meer as reg om die vrou ook te vergoed en op dieselfde gelykheid op level van, kom ons sê, salaris of wat te kom. Want daar is vandag in Suid-Afrika is daar tog vroue wat baie meer as manne verdien. En 'n mens moet dit net probeer regverdig in die landbousektor dat ons dit kry. Ons praat oor minimumloon in goed, maar dan is dan tog nog waar ons vroue nog steeds onder voel. Wel op die plaas is ons net met ons boere net heeldag op landerye en goed nie. Ons vroue doen admin, jy's deel van beleide, jy's deel van 'n klomp goeders wat gebeur. En mense moet 'n ander prentjie begin kry van plaas, van landbou, want dit is 'n groot besigheid. Of jy nou op kleinskaal boer en of jy kommersieel boer of wat ook al, niks, daar's nie 'n verskil nie, want wat gedoen moet gedoen word. So in terme van, as ons kyk na gelykheid, hoekom kan 'n vrou nie ook 'n CEO wees van 'n maatskappy nie, om daar te kom nie? En dit veral in ons breinkultuur, as ons nou dink in terme van ons wit en ons bruin, dan by ons is daar geen verskil nie. Ons is soos broer en susters, en ek dink dis die soort verhoudings wat 'n mens wil probeer koester in landbou in. En as ons weer terug moet gaan in terme van gelykheid, gee vir ons wat ons kan doen en wat ons wil doen. Moenie vir ons terughou omdat ons 'n vrou is nie. So ja, ek dink as dit kom by gelykheid en gelyke deelname, het dit tyd geword dat ons vrouens opgelig word om ook gelyk te kom met daar waar manne is, en daar waar dit nog nie is nie, moet ons baie hard aan werk dat ons gelyk op dieselfde level kan kom.
Ja. Preline, ek wil by jou stilstaan vir 'n rukkie. Jou storie en jou familie se storie is eintlik regtig merkwaardig, want jy en jou man boer saam. Hy's 'n boer, jy's 'n boer of 'n boerin. So julle seuns is ook betrokke by die besigheid. You actually were the one that took the business to the next level, want jy het gaan aansoek doen vir 'n subsidie en jy het die navorsing gedoen om uit te vind hoe kan die besigheid groei. Hoe toeganklik is daai inligting vir die vrou op straat wat ook wil uitvind, dalk kan ek ook doen wat Preline doen, dalk kan ek jou voorbeeld volg and also start a business from getting help from government or from whoever is able to get me a step further.
Ek dink ek moet sê ons besigheid is regtig suksesvol, maar dit sou nie suksesvol gewees het as ons nie passievol was vir dit wat ons wil hê in die lewe nie. My eerste stap was gewees, kyk, ek het geen agtergrond van boerdery gehad nie. Dis nou 10 jaar later en ek staan vir niks terug nie. My eerste stap, of die eerste stap wat enige persoon op straat moet doen, as jy moet jouself ondersoek, wil jy boer? Sien jy kans vir al die drama wat gepaard gaan met boerdery? Dan moet jy gaan aanklop by jou naaste departement van landbou. Want dit is eintlik jou eerste stop. Dan moet jy betrokke raak by organiseerde landbou. En slegs dan moet jy die pad vorentoe vir jouself uittrap. Wanneer jy die regte kanale begin volg, soos om by georganiseerde landbou aan te sluit, dan gaan deure vir jouself oop. Wat ons gedoen het, en nie omdat ek betrokke nou is by Graan Suid-Afrika, kan ek van hulle praat nie, maar omdat die Graan Suid-Afrika se program, wat hulle reeds in plek het, is net 'n amazing program. Dit help die boer op straat, en ek is nie een vir labels nie, ek hou niks van 'n groot, 'n klein boer, 'n medium boer. 'n Boer by my is 'n boer. As ek net kyk na ons program wat ons het by Graan Suid-Afrika, dit is werklik waar 'n program wat jou as boer in staat stel om jou met kennis te bemagtig. Daarna volg die ander goed van self, maar jy moet passievol wees.
I'd just like to ask you, Marion, what are some of the practical challenges that women in the industry face? And do you have any suggestions for how they could be overcome? Whether it's more government involvement, more funding, where can we get help to get in?
Yeah. So Rozanne, harvest time, and I think Jane will also, touch on some of the things that they've put in place in order to assist new era female farmers. We've put together a very successful program that literally touches on the different challenges that new era farmers face, particularly in finance, particularly in mentorship, training, providing resources for precision farming, all the whole host. And that support is available not only to women, but to everybody that needs it, right? But I think agriculture is fast moving into a whole new world of technovation, what I term agri-technovation era. And, the ability of either an agri-services business to succeed or, a farmer to succeed is how you sort of respond to the fast-growing new era. And I think that company that's able to come up with solutions that are specifically tailored to address the challenges that we see on a different level is the company that's going to eventually sustain itself, right? And so I think that innovation, technology is some of the tools that we can use in revitalizing some of the solutions that we have, because the solutions are there. It's just that some of the stakeholders haven't deliberately been active in terms of saying this is specifically for women and these are the targets that we would like to reach in terms of our growth of our business relating to women. So I think that's where we're going.
Jane, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think, I know we're here today to talk about women and the role of women, but the challenges that we have in terms of transforming the sector, it's not only about including women, it's also about transforming it in terms of color. And it has been something that we've been working on for many years now, in fact, probably 15 years. And there are still challenges that we are not managing to overcome. Yes, I mean, as a farmer, you have to have access to land. In our particular program, our farmers have access to 160,000 hectares. And I think in this last season, they've planted less than 25,000 hectares. So although land is a terribly sensitive issue in South Africa now, we are finding that a lot of farmers have access to land, but they can't use the land. Now, to be able to use land, obviously you need knowledge and skills which one can impart. That's not the problem. The problem is that particularly in our sector, which is the grain sector, people need access to inputs, to the seed and fertilizer. It is expensive. They need access to that, and they need the modern technology. We can't keep new entrants back because they can't afford the modern technology. They stay back using what one of our farmers calls Oma and Opa se saad. We don't want Oma and Opa se saad. We want the most modern stacked genes so that we can get our farmers to be on a commercial level. They need access to mechanization. That, of course, differs. If you're on 1 hectare, you can plant by hand and you can spray with a knapsack sprayer. But if you're on 150 hectares, you can't do it by hand. Then you need mechanization. And our biggest challenge is access to the finance of those things. Now, everybody links it back to you need to have collateral, you have to have a title deed. Well, a lot of our land in South Africa is under communal tenure. And I really don't think that anyway in my lifetime, I'm pretty grey already, but I don't think that in my lifetime that's going to change. Yeah. So instead of saying we can't do it because people don't have a title deed, I want to challenge us to say, well, what can we do? In spite of the fact that we don't have a title deed, let's think differently. I often use the analogy that when Moses came down the mountain with the 10 commandments, one of them wasn't the Credit Act. It wasn't there at the time. Now, anything that we've made, I think we can change. So if it's not working for us, what plan can we make? How can we get government to perhaps give guarantees so that the agribusinesses, the commercial banks, the land bank can afford to finance farmers? Now, giving people just money doesn't help. Giving them just machines doesn't help. It's a holistic thing, and we need to invest in people, whether it's men or women. Yes, women are even further behind, but we're struggling to get the men going. So for us in the development sector, we're not really focusing on gender because we're just trying to get the ball moving. Yes. You know, there's so much goodwill. And I think the time is getting riper and riper in South Africa now for us to take hands. We need the commercial sector, we need the agribusinesses, we need the commercial farmers to help us to do it. And we've been appealing to them recently, and I'm thrilled to say the response is coming. The response is really coming, and people are willing to be involved. We have a number of programs going at different levels, and we're finding it wonderful. And what it does to people's lives to become involved in people that are less fortunate, that everybody gets a new meaning to their life, and it is life-changing. So we just need to keep doing what we're doing and appeal to people to help us think creatively. Don't keep telling us why we can't do it. Yeah. Let's think of how we could do it.
How easy is it to get government support? Because if there were incentives for people to take this as a career, whether it's men or women, for new farmers to come into the industry, hoe belangrik is die rol van die regering om dit as 'n waardige opsie te laat lyk? Enigiemand?
I'm happy to perhaps participate here. Government has money, and government is willing to give money. One of the challenges that we've had in the industry is that government wants to select the beneficiaries, and their criteria for selection are not necessarily entirely the same as ours. And, you know, I've got a very plain outlook on life, and you have a look at somebody's shoes. And when you see somebody with a very long, very shiny shoe, then I think, no, you're a lady. You're a lady, it's quite different. But go and have a look at the gentlemen out there that are wearing long shoes. They probably aren't in the field. Yes. And, you know, we want to work with people who have the passion, who have the commitment, who want to do it. And we find it difficult to convince government to let us select the beneficiaries. And we're happy to be open about what our selection criteria are. It's not that we have any hidden agenda, but please, we need to be able to have people that want to participate, who are attending training courses and study group meetings and learning and developing. Whereas now we get given beneficiaries, And many of them don't even live on the farm. They're not involved. What they want is an income. They don't want to be a farmer. And that's really a big challenge to us. But I think we can overcome it. It's taken a long time to build trust. We come from a very difficult past in this country, and sometimes the color barrier alone breeds distrust. And it takes a very long time to actually overcome that to where you can see somebody's heart and you can believe that they really want to make a difference. And we're all hopeful, and we need to be, and as farmers, we're optimists. So we are optimistic that going forward, things are going to look up and that we will be able to work more closely with government and actually access the money that they have available, because with that money, partnering with industry that also has money, we can just stretch the rands and do a lot more. So we are positive that we can do a lot more.
And I think, Rozanne, once those challenges in terms of beneficiaries and so forth are sorted out, I think it's important that we don't make the support purely grant. Because then it encourages different behavior. I think a bit of mixed funding is what we're looking for, and how we can better utilize the government support in order to subsidize the other support that stakeholders are providing. So that's very important.
Maar ek het net, as ek gou vinnig net vertel ons storie, dat het begin met die eienaar en sy seuns wat gekom het na werkerskomitee toe. En gesê het, ons wil julle deel maak van die hele besigheid, julle voorouers en almal het hier gewerk en is soos 'n familie. En ons het begin, ek en die oudste seun het begin om die aansoek te doen, en daai was die Elraad befondsing in. En ek dink as die regering weer gaan kyk na die Elraad befondsing, en wat gebeur het, ons besluit het ons wil deel raak van dit. Het ons opleiding gekry, is die werkerskomitee wat deur die regering aangebied was. Ons het, die werkers het opleiding gekry, want onthou, dis 'n hele nuwe ding, transformasie en 'n klomp goed gaan nou plaasvind. En vir 'n eienaar om so 'n besluit te neem, sê ek, is 'n hartsverandering wat moet plaasvind. Want nou gaan jy nie meer alleen besluite neem nie, want jy het nou vennote. En ons het begin, ons het al daai opleidings gekry. En ons het die Elraad fondse gekry waarvan ons gedeelte in die besigheid kon koop. En dit gaan goed. En ons het van nasionale regering af het ons ondersteuning gekry deur die Elraad fondse wat hulle gegee het. Provinsiaal baie goeie ondersteuning van ons provinsiale regering. Tot op vandag toe, en nou sê hulle, nee, julle het nou al genoeg geld gekry, julle kan nie nou meer kry nie, maar die uitdagings raak groter en dit raak groter. En die aandeelhouers is gekies, ons het 'n kriteria opgestel, waar volgens ons gewerk het, hoe lank moet jy werk om deel te raak van dit. So, ek dink, die regering se inkoop by enige transformasieproses is baie belangrik. Want jy verander mense se lewens, jy verander hulle omstandighede, en mense kom uit dit, het hulle begin eienaarskap aanvaar vir dit wat hulle het, want dis lekker as jy begin bou het, en jy kan dit verder vat, en ek dink, en ek glo, vandag, dis die beste modelle wat 'n mens kan doen, in 'n partnership aan te gaan, om te gaan kyk, wat werk, hoekom het dit nie gewerk nie? En wat maak my model so suksesvol? Die feit dat ons mense ingelig hou, kommunikasie baie belangrik, moenie mense uitsluit uit besluite uit nie, vertrou mense met wie jy 'n pad wil stap, en dis weer eens, ek wil aansluit, regering se inkoop in hierdie enige boerdery bemagtiging, transformasieprosesse, baie belangrik, hulle kan nie uit een kant apart staan nie. Jy kan nie vir iemand 'n plaas gee en sê gaan boer om daar nie, want daar gaan niks gebeur nie. So ja, ek sal sê, dit is van kardinale belang dat die regering moet inkoop in enige boerderyaktiwiteite.
Kan ek gewoon nie daarin kom? As ek nou kyk na ons eie besigheid, my man het, hy boer al vir 37 jaar, en toe ek op die toneel gekom het, dis nou 10 jaar terug, toe het hy nog geen staatsbefondsing gekry nie. Hy het, en ek meen, hy het begin met 1 skaap, en niemand het hom raak gesien nie, of niemand wil hom raak gesien het nie. Hoekom nie? 'n suksesvolle breinboer in die Weskaap, niemand sien jou raak nie. Het laat mens baie wonder, wat het verkeerd gegaan. Ek het net gedink, spring in, kyk, hoe kan jy het red? As ek nou kyk 10 jaar terug, waar ons is, ja, daar is goeie stories wat die regering kan vertel. As ek nou net spesifiek kyk na ons besigheid, waar ons was 10 jaar terug en waar ons nou ons is meer suksesvoller as wat ons wat. Ons het staatsbefondsing gekry, maar wat my wel bekommer is van hoe die regering dinge doen. Hulle help die boer van 'n sekere vlak af, wat al reeds op 'n sekere vlak is, maar as hy boere by geleide is, dan los hulle hy boer se hand. Soveel so, jy het nog genoeg befondsing gekry, jy kan nou self aangaan. Hulle kyk nooit terug waar daai boer vandag is nie. Hulle kyk nie na natuurrampe en wat met die boer gebeur het, van daar wat hulle die boer gekry het, en tot daar wat hulle die boer gelos het nie. Ek myself het op 'n departement gedien wat geld gegee het aan soos hulle ons noem swart boere. En wat my bekommer het, jy kry daai aansoek word so maklik goedgekeur. Daar word nie gaan kyk, boer die mense regtig nie, het die mense regtig die goed nodig nie. Soveel so, dat mense aan die einde van die dag geld kry, wat nie eens 'n plaas het nie, wat nie eens weet wat het is om te boer nie. So ek sal sê, die regering moet begin besef, dat buite is boere wat wil boer. Help die boer wat homself tot op 'n sekere vlak gehelp het. Vat hom van daai vlak af na 'n hoër vlak toe, dan los jy die boer se hand. Moenie net om in die koerante te kom, die regering het dit gedoen en hulle het dit gegee, daai boer wil help nie. Dit moet 'n hartsverandering wees vir die mense om my tafel, want aan die einde van die dag wil jy sien die boer gaan vorentoe. En my versoek altyd is, as jy as boer vorentoe gaan, moenie vergeet van die boere agter jou nie. Want jy is gehelp, help nog 5 agter jou, want ons wil nie almal aan die einde van die dag alleen staan nie. Ons wil as groep oor die wenstreep gaan.
Yeah. So it looks to me like, in terms of the government involvement, we're sitting with a bit of a catch-22, where they've got certain criteria for who the money is going to go to, and they don't want to use the criteria that actually would help to adjudicate, to make sure that the right people get the money. So everyone's sitting with their hands tied, or then they do help you, and then they leave you. So if you look at the issue of transformation, it isn't only a transformation within the agricultural sphere, it's a transformation in the mind switch that everyone needs to make in order for us to have a way more successful agricultural industry. And we are some of the best in the world, we could be the best in the world. Jy het 'n goeie punt gemaak, jy het gesê daar moet kommunikasie wees. Die kommunikasie moet deurlopend wees, sodat almal weet wat aangaan. And the more information people have, the more that they can take themselves forward.
I'd also like to think that there's another paradigm shift that we need to make in South Africa. You know, the economists talk about an economic unit. And this sounds like something that none of us can comprehend. The challenge is that we have people in South Africa now who are surviving on an old age pension or a few child grants. And they have access to maybe a hectare of land. They are surviving on 2,000 Rand a month. How they're doing it, you and I don't know, but they're surviving. If you can help that person to use their 1 hectare, instead of getting half a ton of maize, to harvest an 8 or 9 ton yield, you are effectively doubling the income of that household. Now, when you talk to a commercial farmer, he says, oh, no, that is a lot of nonsense. You have to have a big farm. At least, they'll tell you, 700 or 800 hectares or 1,000 hectares or whatever, because otherwise you don't have an economic unit. Well, what is an economic unit? It depends entirely on your standard of living, where you were, where you want to be, what you can aspire to. And in South Africa, we have this view of it's only big that's better. And my view is, if we've got 100 people each farming a hectare, or we've got one farmer farming 100 hectares, it is 100 hectares of land in production. And if we can change the lives of 100 people in the communal areas, why don't we do it? With modern technology, they are achieving commercial yields. Let's do that too. I'm not saying we must stop the big commercial farmers. They're great, and they're doing a fantastic job, and I think our farmers are perhaps some of the best in the world. Yes. And we're feeding South Africa. But if we can also help the other people at the same time, we can do great things. We've got a lot of partnerships going with the input supply companies who provide the top of the range inputs to farmers, and they're achieving commercial yields. So let's open our minds to, we're not all the same, but we don't all want to be the same or have to be the same. People have different needs and different aspirations. And let's start by reducing poverty, having zero hunger. Those millennial goals that we have, it's important that nobody goes to bed hungry. Apparently, half the people in the world go to bed hungry. 40% of the children in our provinces are underweight. And if you haven't got enough food, you can't learn. So let's start by getting everybody to use the land they have for food security, and let's move from there. It doesn't have to start big. It can grow. And some people want to grow, and some people don't want to grow. Some people are happy to produce food for the family on 1 hectare, and God bless them, that's enough. And those who have an aspiration to grow, let's help them too. Let's not try and make a one-size-fits-all. There is no such one size. And this economic unit, we need to change our mindset about what that is.
Ek is regtig bekommerd oor die, ek noem dit 'n nuwe woord wat nou net skielik almal kyk nou net vas in daai woord. Transformasie. As transformasie nie in jou hart is nie, dan kan jy maar wat maak. Dit baat nie jy gaan een vrou vat en vir haar tussen 'n klomp wit man sit en dan sê die organisasie is getransformeer. No way. Dit werk nie so nie. As jy regtig transformasie praat, moet 'n mens dit kan voel. As jy dit kan voel, vergeet daarvan. En ek stem saam met Jane. Ons almal wil nie groter plase hê nie. Ons almal wil nie 10.000 hektaar hê nie. Al wat ons wil doen is om te boer. Help ons om dit te kan doen wat ons al reeds mee besig is. Sit ons net op 'n ander vlak. En dit is al wat ek vandag vir die regering weer kan sê is, hou op verskillende modelle bou. Kom tot op grondvlak. Ons het al reeds die resep. Julle moet dit nog net in julle boeke skryf.
Yeah. Marion, you look like you also wanted to add something there.
Yeah, I think a lot has been said about it. So yeah.
I don't know if we are going to get to the point where we want people to be thinking about practical implications of supporting new farmers, whether they be female, whether they be black, whether they be, it doesn't matter. Are we going to get to the point where those practical implications are workable, or are we just stuck here with no solution because nobody's listening to each other?
Ek luister nou wat jy sê, weet jy, vir my in die bedryf wat ek in is ek nie net bekommerd oor swart boere nie. Ek is bekommerd oor ons blanke seuns daar buitekant. Want daar word so gekonsentreer op grondhervorming, plaasmoorde en al die goed, laat blanke seuns vandag so onseker voel oor hulle toekoms. Ons konsentreer te hard op bruin, swart, groen en pers en ons vergeet van die ouens wat al reeds in die pipeline is. Vir my as mens en as ek myself 'n Christen noem, moet ek bereid kan wees om vir almal plek te maak, want ons almal het 'n plekjie in die son. So om vorentoe te kan gaan, moet ons nie net dink aan swart boere en bruin boere nie. Onthou dat's blanke seuns wie se ouers nie plase het nie, wie se ouers nie geld het om vir hulle agter te laat nie. En ek sê dit nie vandag omdat ek hier sit met 'n Grand Suid-Afrika baadjie aan nie. Ek sê dit omdat daar soveel nood daar buitekant is. Ons vergeet totally waaroor boerdery gaan, want daar's te veel goed wat heeltyd in ons mind, daar's te veel goed wat ons moet aan dink. Ons moet dit onthou, God het vir ons hier geplaas met 'n doel. En ons moet daai doel in die landbousektor uitleef. Maar as ons begin om almal te verstoot en een kant toe te stoot, gaan jy as boer nêrens kom nie. En my pleidooi is, ons as boere moet oor die draad begin hande vat, voordat die landbousektor kan regwerk.
I think, Jane, you kind of took this discussion in a whole different direction, which I think it needed to go, because it's not just, the focus should be on women and getting women ahead in an industry that seems like it's male dominated, but there are so many other more marginalized communities that also need some kind of advancement within farming. So ek dink ons moet almal anders begin dink aan boerdery, aan transformasie en aan wat ons kan doen om die oplossing te wees. We have to try and all be the solution somehow, but How do we do that? As a closing statement from all of you, Rita, ek gaan by jou begin.
Ja, ons het nou so klomp goed gepraat en ons vergeet die fokus waaroor dit gaan.
Nee, maar dis okay.
Maar as ek nou net vinnig dink, vroue, waar begin het? Soos wat Pauline gesê het, sy het niks van boerdery afgeweet nie. Maar sy het begin belangstel en vandag is sy 'n boer. Vir jou mens op die plaas, hoe bemagtig jou eie plaaswerkers? In die Weskaap het ons hierdie kompetisie wat aangebied word elke jaar, die landbouwerker van die jaar, wat ons daar doen. En dan kry produsente die geleentheid om erkenning te gee aan hulle eie mense. En by ons, meeste van ons plase, is vroue nou al in leierposisies. Algemene arbeiders begin, hulle is nou in senior posisies in, wat veel vinniger na die boer toe kan laat kom. As jy hoor wat ek sê, jy kan groei daarin. Vroue is ook al huishoofde, nie net meer manne nie. Jy kry die ding wat dit sê, net 'n man moet werk en verhuis en daai tipe goed. Maar om weer eens te sê dat ons vroue, en as ons gaan kyk na waar alles vandaan kom, met wie wil jy graag vorentoe gaan? Ja, om net 'n bietjie terug te gaan na hierdie grondhervorming, op almal se lippe is grondhervorming, sondevergoeding en al die goed. Daar's wette in die land en daar's reëls wat gemaak word, wat ons moet gehoorsaam aan die einde van die dag. Met wie wil ek verder, wie sal suksesvol wees in landbou, as ek en sy is nou saam, nee? Ek is op die plaas, sy kom hier uit die stad uit, ek gaan vir haar stuk grond gee, wie van ons toe gaan meer suksesvol wees. En 'n mens moet besop om net te gaan kyk, ja, vat jou eie grond en gee dit vir grondhervorming, en sê, wat julle kan nou daar aangaan, daar is 'n stuk grond wat jy kan vat. Maar my mense op my plaas gaan die beste mense wees, met wie ek wil deel, en met wie ek graag die landbou in Suid-Afrika wil bevorder, en die volhoubaarheid daarvan. Ons sal moet kyk daarna. Daar's klomp gesprekke en goedes wat aan die gang is deesdae, maar vir ons wat op die plase is, ons voel dit, en ons weet wat dit is om saam te praat met dit, want ons weet waarvandaan ons kom. En weer eens, ons moenie net kyk, dis nie net wit boere nie, daar's bruin boere, en ons almal word met dieselfde kam geskeer, ons almal gaan iewes swaar kry, of iewes maklik kry, as dit by daai punt moet kom. So die hartspraak en daai goed, ja, ons kan dit nie vergeet, dit is ook daarin. So ons moet dit uithaal, en ons moet hande vat, as ons die vooruitgang van landbou, die ekonomie in Suid-Afrika wil verbeter, dan gaan dit daaroor, dan moet ons daarna gaan kyk.
Marion.
For us, Rozanne, the aim is food security, right? And in order to reach food security, you need to transform the sector. And in transforming the sector, you either will be able to grow the number of farmers that come into being, you'll either be able to grow the production, the land production, so by increasing the number of people who have land, or increasing the yields in terms of bringing in new technology and so forth. And I believe that women, there's a whole lot of opportunity in terms of growth in bringing them in, because it does not, like I said in the beginning, it does not make sense that you try to reach all those goals with a majority of only 50% of the nation, you know. So I think there is great opportunity in bringing women in and trying to find the solutions in them.
Pauline.
Ek dink ek het die meeste gesê, as ek nou die minste sê. Ek dink om vrou te wees in die landbousektor, moet jy nooit ophou vrou wees nie. Versorg jouself en staan op vir dit waarna jy glo. Ek dink ons verdien regtig ons plek in die son, en die tyd is nou daar vir ons. So vroue, ek wag vir julle.
Jane.
Ek vra baie keer, wie is my naaste wat my God vir my sê ek moet lief hê? Who is my neighbor that my God told me to love? And if we could change the paradigm in our heads and our hearts to reach out to everybody, men and women, big and small, view everybody as your neighbor, reach out your hand. We can build an absolutely amazing country, and it's actually in our hands to do it. We're not going to leave it to the politicians. It's not their responsibility. This is our country, and we are one, and together we can do it. Let us reach out, and let's just do it. Let's make a difference. Every little bit counts.
Wow, what a positive note to end on. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, as daar enige vrae is van die gehoor, sal ons hulle verwelkom. Any questions? for the panel? You answered everything, ladies. There's not one question. There's a question. Yes.
Thank you. I'm not going to ask a question. I'm just going to share. From Zimbabwe. And in the first 20 years of our independence, we saw dramatic development in what Jane calls the development sector, which is the communal black areas in agricultural production. And those of you who were following developments up to 2000, Zimbabwe was called the breadbasket of the region. The bulk of that production came from the communal areas. And 3 things were done by the government to support that. And the bulk of the producers there, at least 60% of them, were rural women. The government extended credit through a government agency called the Agricultural Development Finance Corporation, which is like your land bank here. There's no security in the rural areas like you don't have here. Land is held communally by the chiefs and the headmen. But the government did not ask for title deeds. They took faith in the people, and they took a risk in trusting the people. They selected initially the more productive. There had been a scheme, even in Rhodesia before independence, of developing what were called master farmers, the more productive of the communal farmers. They became the backbone of that program. Then the government developed marketing infrastructure to enable the product to reach the market. And the government extension service, which trained the farmers, was strengthened. And in 15 years, the production from the communal areas in terms of nationally marketed maize surpassed the production from the commercial farming areas. So it can be done with support, with confidence and trust in the people. The loans that were extended by the Agricultural Finance Corporation were not secured by title deeds, but the repayment rate was 96% and above. There was no default. So it can be done, and I think we can do it here too. Another sharing in Malawi, late 90s into early 2000s, Malawi was a perpetual beggar country for food. I'm a little embarrassed but honest to say by 2004, Zimbabwe was importing food from Malawi. Again, a very strong government support program for small-scale producers who are predominantly women achieved that status. So it can be done, and you will do it.
Thank you very much. Yes, Gustav, there's a question right at the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nonos Khoto. I'm a commercial farmer here in the Free State. I would like to make a comment around what, the issue around trying to find ways to actually help a lot more than just female. It's not about gender. I think only once we are able to actually assist new entrances. Female in the sector are still new entrants, and so to speak, because we need them up the value chain. You need them up the commercial farming numbers, as mentioned. So I think if we can focus on making sure that our new entrances are actually, supported well enough, you will start seeing those women coming through those ranks, because they will also understand how it is to get in and actually to move up. So. Good luck, ladies, and well done.
Thank you, Nono. Anything else? No other questions, comments for the panel? Okay, last chance. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies, to all 4 of you for a really eye-opening and insightful discussion. You've opened up actually so many more questions now that we have discussed the things that we thought we needed to talk about. There's a whole lot more other stuff that actually came out of this. So I think you've left me and the audience and everyone watching with so much more to ruminate over and so much more to think about how we can take women and anyone else who wants to come into the agricultural industry forward. Thank you so, so much.